These questions were submitted by Kensington Parkwood Elementary School in Maryland. The first question is from Ashley. She asks, what is the difference in the air you breathe underwater and the air you breathe in outer space? Does it feel or taste different? Over.
These questions were submitted by Kensington Parkwood Elementary School in Maryland. First question is from Ashley. She asks, what is the difference in the air you breathe underwater and the air you breathe in outer space? Does it feel or taste different?
There is no air in outer space.
Hello, Kensington Parkwood, and that's a great question, Ashley. Well, down here, the air is very thick, very dense. We're under 2.5 times the atmospheric pressure. And it's also very humid, probably about 80 to 90% humidity, and around about 27 degrees Celsius, so warm, humid air. Up in space, I was talking to Dottie earlier today, and she said the air is very, very dry, and it's very noticeable that your lips get dried out and your skin gets dried out. But the one thing in space is they can control the temperature. Down here, we're more at the mercy of the sea temperature as to how warm it is inside aquarium.
And it's also very humid, probably about 80 to 90% humidity, and around about 27 degrees Celsius, so warm, humid air. Up in space, I was talking to Dottie earlier today, and she said the air is very, very dry, and it's very noticeable that your lips get dried out and your skin gets dried out. But the one thing in space is they can control the temperature. Down here, we're more at the mercy of the sea temperature as to how warm it is inside aquariums.
The next question comes from Oliver. He asks, what are the similarities between living underwater and living in outer space? Over.
The next question comes from Oliver. He asks, what are the similarities between living underwater and living in outer space?
Go ahead.
Over.
Hi, Oliver. Well, I hope to be able to answer that question personally one day, but at the moment I'm having to use the advice that Dottie gave me again this morning because she's actually been to space in the shuttle. But down here, it's a little bit like being in a spacecraft. We're very isolated. We're in a confined area. 6 of us living together in something that's about the size of a school bus. And we don't really have any option to come to the surface quickly, as that would be very dangerous. So if we have an emergency, we have to escape to a small little gazebo, which is like an upturned cup of air next to the Aquarius, which is similar to being in the space station, where if you have an emergency, you have to use the Squyres capsule to make an emergency descent. So I think they're the main similarities. It's the isolation and the fact that you have no quick and simple escape option.
Something that's about the size of a school bus, and we don't really have any options to come to the surface quickly, as that will be very dangerous. So if we have an emergency, we have to escape to a small little gazebo, which is like an upturned cup of air next to the aquarium, which is similar to being in the space station, where if you have an emergency, you have to use the Squyres capsule to make an emergency descent. So I think they're the main similarities. It's the isolation and the fact that you have no quick and simple escape options.
The next question comes from Edwin. He asks, what is the difference between an asteroid, a meteor, and a shooting star? Over.
Comes from Edwin. He asks, what is the difference between an asteroid, a meteor, and a shooting star? Over.
Hi Edwin, good question. A meteor and a shooting star are exactly the same thing. Those are just two different words for the same thing. When a piece of rock in space comes into the Earth's atmosphere, it heats up and it gets very bright, just like the filament inside a light bulb. And so when you look up in the sky and you see it streaking across the sky, that's a hot piece of rock that's burning up as it goes through the atmosphere. And you can call that a shooting star, you can call it a meteor, it's the same thing. An asteroid is a piece of rock that's out in space. And it's asteroids that we'd like to explore someday. Some asteroids are little tiny things. You can have an asteroid the size of your fist. You can have an asteroid the size of a house. You can have an asteroid the size of a city. And so those are the things that we hope to send astronauts to someday, and that's what we're down here to simulate here in the Aquarius habitat.
So what's the difference between a meteor and a meteorite?
A meteorite is one that's on the Earth's surface. Yeah, if it gets to the surface, it becomes a meteorite. And if it's a rock that you think is a meteorite but isn't, it's called a meteor bomb.
A meteor. You go to Antarctica and collect a meteorite and maybe a meteor wrong.
Yeah, those geologists have all these different terms.
That's great. William asks, how do you get in and out of the Aquarius habitat?
All operators on the equipment, be advised we're going to go ahead and end this come delay PO event early while I'm going up through question 5. just to maintain a little margin on the timeline so we can kick off our IB science activities.
That's great. William asks, how do you get in and out of the Aquarius habitat?
Well, getting in and out of the Aquarius habitat is really easy. It's sort of like just getting dressed up to go outside to play. We have a place called the wet porch, and when we go out to the wet porch, we put on our diving clothes and we put on our diving helmet, and then when you look down, you can just see the water. It's right there. There's so much air inside of Aquarius that it keeps the water from coming in. The air pushes the water down so it doesn't come in to the habitat. And so when we're ready to go outside, we just sort of slip down into the water and we swim right out. Very, very easy.
The Aquarius habitat is really easy. It's sort of like just getting dressed up to go outside to play. We have a place called the wet porch. And when we go out to the wet porch, we put on our diving clothes, we put on our diving helmet. And then when you look down, you can just see the water. It's right there. There's so much air inside of Aquarius that it keeps the water from coming in. The air pushes the water down so it doesn't come in to the habitat. And so when we're ready to go outside, we just sort of slip down into the water and we swim right out. Very, very easy.
Okay, this will be our last question because we have to conclude due to time constraints. And this one comes from Ella, and she asks, what do you do if there is an emergency in the Aquarius? Over.
Okay, this will be our last question.
Oh,
because
good.
we have to conclude due to time constraints. And this one comes from Ella, and she asks, what do you do if there is an emergency in the aquarium? Over.
Hi Ella. Well, this place has been really well designed and really well thought out, so we've got lots of redundant systems and we hope we never have an emergency. But if we do, then there are a number of things down here we can do. We've got breathing masks all over Aquarius that we can put on in case there's a fire. We've got emergency oxygen as well. We've got fire extinguishers, water and carbon dioxide fire extinguishers. But if we really had to leave Aquarius, then we could also put on breathing apparatus and go under to a gazebo, which is our safe haven, this small pod which is next to Aquarius, and we could safely stay in there, all 6 of us, breathing clean, fresh air or oxygen until we can work out what the emergency is and sort ourselves out from there.
Aquarius that we can put on in case there's a fire. We've got emergency oxygen as well. We've got fire extinguishers, water and carbon dioxide fire extinguishers. But if we really had to leave Aquarius, then we could also put on breathing apparatus and go under to a gazebo, which is our safe haven, this small pod which is next to Aquarius, and we could safely stay in there, all 6 of us, breathing clean, fresh air or oxygen until we can work out what the emergency is and sort ourselves out from there.